Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
You can see the two towers, a huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror.
The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense. But always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us.
And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace.
I remember waking up one day and walking into the living room, the TV was on, and I'd seen the first tower of the Twin Towers. There was smoke coming out of it. And I remember watching the news going, oh man, that's so tragic. And I watched live as the second plane hit, and I had goosebumps go all over my body, and it was a wake-up call for me.
The day I decided to join the Army was September 11, 2001. I was a freshman in high school, and I remember being in second period, and my teacher rolling in the car and showing us on TV that what had happened. And I remember thinking how honorable it was for those people to put their lives ahead and in front of other people, more important than their own life.
Well, when I was younger, I was always interested in the military, and I wanted to know what it was like to be in a group of people with a like mindset. So when I got in high school, I joined Naval ROTC, and that kind of furthered my interest. And then once 9/11 happened, that just solidified my decision to join. It was the first time, I don't think I had the mental capacity to understand how it would affect me later in life, but it was the first time that we realized that we were vulnerable. It was the first time in 60 years since Pearl Harbor that America probably realized that on that scale, and so it just made me want to try to make a difference.
There was even moments overseas where I remember walking through a poppy field. We were just doing a standard recon patrol, and we got pinned down by machine gun fire from a Dishka, which is a large belt-fed Russian surplus machine gun that a lot of the Afghani fighters would have. And I remember just throwing myself back down onto the ground, and it was a moment where if I died, I was comfortable with, like, I made my peace with God in an instant, and I was like, thank you for getting me this far, and let me take at least one of these guys with me if I have to go now. And like, I'm trying to dig into the ground, moving back and forth with my backpack, and we thank God we had Apaches on station. They were able to, convert fire on that position, because we couldn't move, we were pinned down. So it clarifies everything, where everything distills down to that moment, and it's like time stops, and you're not scared, you're not happy, you're not sad. It's like you're nothing, but you're everything at the same time.
I knew how that event turned America into the most patriotic country I'd ever seen in my lifetime, and I remember everybody coming together and just being so, how many different songs were released during that time, and the country in a whole just really felt like we were tighter than ever.
How would I describe the feelings that I had as a soldier compared to, somebody living through Pearl Harbor? I would imagine that somebody as an outsider standing and watching that happen in Pearl Harbor, because like my grandfather, he tried to join the Army for almost a year. He was underweight, and I remember him telling me stories about how he'd have to eat. He would eat constant bananas and put like lead weights in his shoes because he'd constantly go and weigh in. He was just every week going to the recruiter's office. He didn't need to get drafted. He wanted to join. And knowing that was part of my lineage, you don't have to tell me to go, I'm going to go on my own. I personally believe that there are some that have to get told to go, and then there are some that are going to go, send me. And I was one of those people that, I raised my right hand, I'm a triple volunteer. And I think a lot of young men and women during World War II, they experienced that same thing, where everybody's got differences. We're all different people. Yeah, we live in a big nation, but when somebody attacks us, we come together as one, and we're going to do anything we can to protect our way of life. I think that's universal for any country where people love it. I do look at it at this point in my life that some people define themselves by they're always a soldier, and yes, there's always a part of me that's a soldier, and I'm always going to be an NCO, and I'm always going to have my awards and my enlisted record brief and all that stuff, but it's who I was, not who I am, but it's a part of who I am. And I think us all realizing that we're not defined by our past, we're reinforced by it, and it's neither good nor bad, it's only what we decide in our mind to make it.